New Landing's Job Chat is brought to you in part by the Prosperity Advisory Group, the next step in your financial future, and by the EBS Group with an unparalleled background in Oracle solutions and services.
You're looking for a new job. You go to a search firm. How is it viewed from their perspective when you show up at their door? You'll find out today on Job Chat. My name is Hector Silva, and I'm your host. Our guest today is Mike Tracy. Welcome, Mike.
Hello. Good morning.
Mike Tracy is the owner and managing principal of Omni Employment Management Services. He has over 25 years of professional human resources management experience with well-respected organizations such as Dayton Hudson Corporation, KCF PepsiCo, and Culinary Concepts Limited, a subsidiary of Hallmark Corporation. Michael is actively involved with professional and civic organizations within the Kansas City area and serves on several non-profit boards and advisory groups. He completed his SPHR in 1994 and remains an adjunct faculty member in the graduate and undergraduate programs of Friends University in Lenexa campus. Welcome, Mike, and let's learn a little something about search firms from your end.
Happy to share.
Okay. From the perspective of a search firm, who is the client? The person who is looking for a job or the company that is looking for an employee?
You bet. That's a great question. And I'd probably want to start with defining a search firm from a recruiting and staffing firm. Because I think even there are differences in answering that question. From the search firm's perspective, the client business is going to pay us to act on their behalf to go out and find a solution to their needs. There really isn't any question who our client is. It's the client who's paying us money. And the candidates that we seek are truly, in fact, what our client asks us to go find. In a staffing and recruitment firm, I would say that might be a little different in that the person who walks in the door into a staffing and recruitment firm represents an opportunity for the recruitment firm to find a place for that person for which they will be compensated if they're able to make a good match. So they may not, in fact, have an intended client company for whom they work. They may have some good talent who walked in the door that they'd sure love to find a home for. And in the event they can find a client company that has a need, then they've made a match. So subtle but important distinctions, I think, in the difference between the staffing firm model and the search firm.
So you're not gathering resumes and then waiting to see if something comes in the door that matches. You're actually actively looking for those resumes that match what you have been asked to find.
Every time. Every time. Now, we certainly, and any good search firm loves to retain relationships with top talent. But at any given time, each assignment is its own assignment, and we're trying to meet the needs of that client company specifically. So whether we go back to our database and use that as a running start to find some good folks who might fit the bill is certainly something that we all do. But every search is a new assignment, and so we want to be sure we've given our client a fresh look at who is out in the marketplace and what kind of talent we might be able to attract to their opportunity and to meet their needs.
That company that is looking for that employee, would they have an exclusive with a search firm, or do they use a number of search firms at the same time?
Mm-hmm. Generally, in the search firm arrangement, it's relatively exclusive because that company contracts with a firm like us to be their sole source of services. They pay us to go out and find somebody and we get paid whether ultimately we find somebody or not, technically speaking. The recruitment and contingency staffing firms only get paid if they make a placement. And so the HR function in the client company may choose to go that route. They may call 5 or 6 different staffing firms. And again, what they're looking for is who's got a match for me right now. And they may open the door up to 4 or 5 different organizations. The 4 or 5 different organizations will then scramble to try and identify the right person to get in front of that person so that they can be paid for the match. Awkwardness occurs when 2 firms submit the same person. And so you have a little bit of a different situation, especially in the more professional staff where there are fewer people at certain technical and specific jobs. And so that causes some angst. So depending upon the nature of the assignment and what it is the client wants somebody to do, they may choose to do the contingency staffing route or the search.
Okay. So in the process, you have someone from HR, and I imagine in one of these forms contacts you and gives you a list of expectations or what needs they need filled and specifics as to the type of people they're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then what do you do next in the process once you have that?
As a search firm
Mm-hmm.
designed to help a business get their need met, the first thing that I'll tend to do is take the list and now go back and visit with the client and help spend a few minutes of consultative time with some objectivity and some insight to just say, I know this is the list of things that you want, but let's talk about perhaps what you need. And maybe I can walk you through and help me understand the distinction between wants or requirements on a job description versus what do you need. And subtle as it may sound, those can be very different things. And I think that's the first step that a professional consultant in the area of HR and search should do. For example, I need a controller. Well, I have all the description from your HR person on the requirements for a controller. And I understand the nature and scope of what you've written down in this paper. But I'd like to go visit with the president because I'd like to know a couple things. Is your accounting department in a mess? Do you need a turnaround, cleanup person? Do you need a maintainer? Are you in trouble with IRS, or you've gotten some bad audits, so you need an extremely technically competent, precision-oriented controller? Are you going to merge and grow, and do you need a controller that's had experience with mergers and acquisitions? Those are not going to show up in a job description. But clearly, it's helping the client think through not what do you want on your job description, but what do you need in this business? Because the first step in being able to be credible in helping find the right talent is understanding, well, what is it that you really need? So generally, that's going to be the first step for us, for me.
Have you found at any time after you've had these conversations that it's influenced maybe a change in their requirements?
You know, I think that's kind of the goal, is to have them consider changes in some of their requirements. Because oftentimes the requirements are the same job description the last person had, or that they pulled off the shelf. And sometimes the search tends to be based upon a predicated set of factors that just because they've always been there. But it's really difficult to put on paper. I need someone to clean up and keep us in good state with the IRS. And so those aren't going to show up on a job description, and they really are an enhancement of clarity about helping ensure whatever's written is supported with also what is it that you need, so that we can walk away with the sense of, I get it. And now we can go find talent, not people that fit requirements, but people who have been there, done that. That's what they're known for. That's where they've been starring in their profession. And now we can narrow down the type of experiences that somebody's demonstrated to help make sure the specific need gets met by that client.
So once you have that clarification, and you have now in mind exactly what it is that they need, how do you go about finding the people?
So this is always the fun part, because now once we walk away and are able to kind of collectively see and say, I get it, I know what you need, the process begins. And this is often what I share with the job seeker is, let me tell you what a headhunter goes through to find a person. And you compare that against what your process is to find a job. The first thing that we do is that we start with research. And we identify, I'm going to say, 100 to 125 different companies within an industry or space that are consistent with what the client business needs. And then we're going to identify who in that company is somebody that we might want to reach out to. By the time our research is done, we'll have 100 to 125 companies, names, and email addresses of targeted, prospective candidates, but more importantly, networking referrals of people who are in the space similar to who our client works with and what they need and what that position does, so that we can begin the second phase of the search process. So the first thing we do is spend many hours on research. It's a law of numbers. To find exactly what a client needs, let's just pick on the controller position a minute. We're gonna identify many people that are going to help us power network through the controller field world here in this market, assuming they don't want to relocate, and find somebody who's going to specifically have the needs, the experience, the demonstrated success with that client needs. So research is the first phase, and we'll probably spend 15 to 20 hours just putting that list together. And then we'll send a target email advising people of an opportunity. And then we're going to pick up the phone and we're going to call darn near every one of those people. And we're going to power network our way through the controller community in Kansas City. And we're going to say, hey, we have this opportunity, and we'll disclose the company name if it's okay. If it's not, it's confidential, then we can't. Who do you think do you know anybody that might be perfect for this opportunity and have some fun with this?
So the people you're calling are not necessarily the people you're after.
Well, if they want to throw their hat in the ring, that's fine.
That's their prerogative.
But it's not really to be presumptuous. Said, hey, I got a job. You interested? Mm-hmm. Because honestly, that's not practical. But more importantly, I'm interested in good people who know good people. And the more clear that I can define exactly what it is this business needs. I've got a client who's interested in bringing in a controller who is very experienced at merger acquisition, because that's what this organization needs to do. They need to put in a financial and accounting system before they get the merger. So these are two hot buttons that I need to find somebody who's really good. And if they've come from the manufacturing and distribution and they understand inventory and they understand inventory systems, you know anybody like that? And from there, that power networking will result in generally, maybe about 8 to 10 people who have thrown their hat in the ring, who we think are close, and who genuinely would be a qualified field of people that are in the zone, that we will then take to the next step, which is now we'll start to meet these people and spend some time with them. But that part of the process is arduous and takes a lot more time and energy than what most people realize, done well. And, the seeker, I think, experiences the same thing, or should. Have they put together a list of 150 companies? Do they know the names of the people that they need to reach? Have they sent something out to everyone, and have they picked up the phone? And not said, do you have a job, but have you... I'm looking for an organization that could use some skill and ability or has a need in the area of, and power network their way through. Yeah, my old boss is looking for somebody. So same concepts apply.
Which makes it important that when you are let go from a company, and many good people are let go from companies.
All the time.
So when you are let go, you have to keep those ties back to that company and keep that network alive with that company, because you come along, ask that controller, and that's the point where he could say, I have somebody who we had to let go but fits your bill exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So if they don't keep those ties, their name doesn't show up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know you've had other podcasts on networking, so I won't necessarily repeat some of that. But at the end of the day, I use the term we power network through the controller community or the CIO community or the clinical medical field community. And power networking means we want to identify people who are connected in a network, who other people recognize as very good and who are acquainted with other people. Because to power network means you need to be plugged into a network. And the reality is, as professionals, we're all known by our reputation, capabilities, strengths, and who we know. And so leaving an old employer is frankly just moving on to another consulting assignment, because at the end of the day, it's a small town, and you're going to cross paths again.
Now, during this whole process, I imagine you're still discussing this with the company representative that you're dealing with and letting them know where you are in that search?
Yes.
Okay. Are there times that things may change in the middle of a search?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We, on a professional position, we may spend anywhere from 60 to 100 hours. And we target that as our benchmark. Some clients want a weekly update. We do like to offer a bi-weekly update because it's all about staying in communication. Mm-hmm. But there are things that change. There are things that change all the time. The hiring manager, oops, they've taken another position. Now we've got a little different scenario to deal with. Well, maybe we want to promote somebody. Well, should we throw them in the mix or should we just promote them? Well, our financial results that quarter weren't that good. We're going to hold off on filling any openings. And so there's a freeze. There's the owner's brother-in-law all of a sudden needs a job, and so they come into the picture. I probably could come up with a list of reasons. It could be a number of things change.
But it's things that are going to make you have to go back and revisit some of the things that you've done.
Yeah.
And if you're late into the process already and have picked those 8 people, you may be going back to square one.
And I think the thing that helps mitigate that is the needs analysis up front. Because the last thing that we want to do is get to 4 people and present them to a client and they say, these aren't even close. Well, then we didn't ask the right questions, or we didn't listen, or they didn't share, or whatever. Those dots were not appropriately connected at the front end. Because if we walk away with a very clear understanding of what the client is needing to have somebody do, it significantly enhances our hit rate of presenting, after all of our work, a valid pool of great candidates. And it'll happen once in a while that someone will come through and the client will say, where in the world did you find that person? They're not even close to what we wanted. Frankly, that's a mark of a little bit of a failure on the search firm part, and you want to be sure that you don't do that a second time, because it means somebody's not listening or somebody's not communicating or we're not understanding exactly what you need. But
When you get to that place where you have those 8 people and you start to talk to them, is it an interview type of conversation or is it more of just a discussion? Are you looking to go through the type of interview that they would go through at the company, or are you just trying to gauge how well they know things?
That's a great question, depending upon the competency of the consultant who's doing the search. In the appropriate sense, the search consultant who's managing the interview process knows enough about business and the client's needs to have a competent discussion with a field of 8 professionals. And if the best the consultant can do is say, well, I see you've got 4 years of experience here and 3 years of experience there, tell me about your last job and blah, 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 then that's all well and good, but it's not getting to the point. The more competent interviewer should be able to ask, and this is the search consultant, should be able to ask, tell me about the last merger you managed. And walk through that experience such to be able to get a sense that the person was good at it, that it worked well, that they learned from some mistakes, that they built relationships with organizations that will help another company go through a merger. And you end up with being able to truly feel confident that this person's going to be able to meet this client's needs, because they've been there, done that, and that's information that then makes the search professional a lot more competent going to the client and saying, let me tell you where this person knocked this one out of the park. And if they did it there, I think they could probably do it for you. So maybe you should talk to them. And those are the types of interviews that are really kind of cutting to the chase and getting back to what is it that you need somebody to do. And that's how that conversation should take place with all 8. We stay focused on the top 3 filters. What are the top 3 filters we need for this assignment to fill this client's needs? Top 3 filters. Clean up with the IRS, knows how to do merger acquisition, and has installed accounting systems. If that's the top 3 things that are most important to the client, that's the top 3 filters we're going to use for all the controllers that are out there. There's an unlimited number of very talented accounting professionals out there, but a fewer number that have all 3 of those things current, relevant, and similar to this client's needs. So our job is to filter through, and we use those 3 filters so that we're consistently and accurately looking at exactly what is this business trying to bring in the house. And if we do that well, then we've narrowed the field of people that we present to the client, and we don't get that. Where did this person come from?
Mike, thank you so much. You definitely have opened my eyes to the fact that it's not just gather information and toss it back to them and let them make a decision. You're actually making decisions before it even gets there.
Well, it's where we're getting paid to help the business field a team of folks that are going to meet their needs.
Well,
yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing all of that with us today.
You're welcome.
If somebody wanted to contact you for more information, advice, where could they reach you?
Our website is the easiest way to find out how to find us, www.omniemployment.com. Phone number's 913-341-2119. So,
thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You can hear more advice from Mike Tracy and from our other experts on podcasts you can find on www.newlandiesjobchat.org, or you can go to YouTube and just put in Job Chat. Until next time, may your days be full of health, happiness, and success.
Yeah. Guys,
that has never, ever happened to me.